me too. Cut them out, so. But then do I keep this off and leave that on?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they'll hear you from here, that one over there.
Cool. How long do we wait?
I would wait like 2 minutes
2 more minutes?
and then start. Because some people will come in, it's just,
There was a lot of traffic this morning, so.
yeah, it took me 45 minutes to get here.
Okay.
No accidents,
Okay.
just human.
Yeah, there was none, yeah, when I was coming either. Guys, we're gonna wait like 2 more minutes to see if we get anybody to come in. There's literally no one here in person, so. And I had brought you guys some goodies. That's okay. Wait, 1 more minute. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Before we start, I'd love to tell you guys a little bit about myself. And it's weird to be in this room and not have anybody in here to actually talk about this. So, at any point, I'm gonna make you guys talk too. So at some point, you're gonna have to show me your faces because I'm gonna have you introduce yourselves to me because I don't know some of you. So, just a little bit about myself. I have been with Keller Williams since 2006. And I have moved from this office to Cleveland, Ohio for 9 months, to Houston, Texas for 5 years, and then back here. And I was only with Keller Williams during that time. So at around 2018, I had kids in between now and then, and I got serious about my business in about 2018. So at one point, we had brought on a buyer's agent, and my sister is licensed, my parents are licensed. My mom is our client care coordinator, and my sister is licensed in Williamsburg. And she works that market. I'm from Williamsburg, so we work in there a lot in that area. So if you ever have anybody that you need help with in Williamsburg, please feel free to reach out. And we've done a little over 10 million last year in production. I did. And then this year we're hoping to do 13. So small team, part-time assistant. My mom is our client care coordinator. You might see her in here every now and then, but mostly she just works from home. And I think I'll have an intern this summer as well. So that's a little bit about me. If you guys could just take a second and introduce yourselves to me so I know who I'm talking to today, that would be amazing. Marissa, could you start?
What's up, man?
Hi, I'm teaching a class right now.
What's up, man?
That's not bad. And I woke up at 5:30.
Okay,
Can you give me that?
I'll take it.
Thank you.
I'll take it.
Okay. Marissa.
Hi.
Okay,
Sorry.
there you go.
My name is Marissa Gillis. I have been with Keller Williams since um June. I started out at the other location and
Okay,
most recently changed over to this location in about February.
okay.
Um I don't know if you want us to say anything else,
No,
but
that's good. That's great. Okay. James, you want to go next? I'm just going in like the order I see of my cameras on my camera.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. My name is James Jones. I'm an agent with KW Richmond West. I've been a licensed realtor for a little bit. Tuning in at this class to sharpen my skills and learn some things.
Awesome. Shanae, I see you next.
I knew it was going to be me. Good morning. I'm Shanae. I've been with KW. I've been licensed since August last year. So
Okay,
I know most realtors start with buyers. So I'm hoping to take some good stuff from here.
awesome. All right. Alexis, I know you, but go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexis Payton. I've been with Keller Williams since June. I was with another brokerage previously so I've been licensed for almost 3 years. And I'm excited to be at KW. I've already learned so much, and yeah.
Is this your first or second time taking Ignite?
Second.
Okay, cool. All right, and then Lyndon. Oh, I probably have more on here. I don't see everybody.
Hi, I'm Lyndon. I've been licensed since I believe September. And I was with another brokerage prior, and I also was an assistant to a real estate agent. So I got to learn a lot from that, but then I decided I wanted to go out on my own and do a little bit more with education. So that's how I came to Keller Williams in February.
Awesome. I love that education was a word you just used because I feel like Keller Williams' big focuses are technology and education, and it's because of classes like this. So you'll see people come into these classes that you guys have probably already seen that have been licensed for a long time. Anytime Catherine Ham is teaching, I want to be in the room. Lindsay Jones is teaching, John Pace is teaching. You're always going to be learning something from realtors that have been in the business, and there's no reason for you not to continue that. So that's awesome. Taylor.
Hey everyone, sorry I'm trying to get ready, but I am Taylor. I've been a realtor since December, fairly new. I did come from another brokerage, so I just started here at Keller Williams in March, the beginning of March. And yeah, so I got my realty license to focus more on low income um, home buyers or homeowners and ones that also want to sell. So I'm focused on that, and then also connecting it to mental health, which is what I work as a mental health office manager now. So
Okay.
kind of want to connect them together and bring housing stability to our community.
All right. I'm thinking outside the box on this. Are you working with any nonprofits?
Not currently, no, but we know a lot of nonprofits in our community, just because we're a private counseling practice.
Right.
And so we work fairly close with a lot of our nonprofits in the community, as well as RBHA and different like housing organizations in the community.
Okay. You might have to talk because I might be able to help you with that. Just
Okay, perfect.
around that.
Okay.
Philanthropy is a big piece of what we do as a team. We spotlight a nonprofit and small business every month. And we've been doing it for about 3 years now. So we pick a different nonprofit organization to partner with. And then we've taken it a step further to create this group called Knights of the Round Table. And we get all of our nonprofit leaders in the same room so that they can learn from each other. And then we provide some sort of like item of value to them, whether it's a training opportunity. We'll have a speaker come in. So we've done it once, we'll have it quarterly. And it's just a good way to, I interview these agencies or these nonprofits, and they are doing so much in our community, but I also think that they're like in a little bubble that they don't see other organizations that are doing things also, and they could learn and support one another. And so I just felt like they needed to all be in the same room, because there are times where I felt like an interview process, I would learn that this person could benefit from what they're doing and they could partner together. And so it just worked out really well. And because of that, I like what you want to do, but I also think, I don't know, we'll talk about that.
Okay, all right.
Tara, I know you, and Nicole, I know you. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves to the group, or are you guys like old timers? We're good.
Hey, good morning. It's Tara. So, I hopefully I know most of the people that's on the training with us today. So I have been, in case you don't know, I've been in the business for 6 years. 5.5 of those years I've been with KW, and this is about probably my sixth Ignite, and I'm always looking to learn. I'm a lifetime learner, and I have been garnering lots of new information from this series of Ignite. So thank you, Christy.
And Nicole. Oh, she can't talk, but she's listening. Okay, cool. And then Linda, I don't think I got you either.
Good morning. I'm Linda Johnson LeBlanc. I've just recently got my license in Virginia, although I have a license in California. I joined Keller Williams, I guess officially like back in October, November, but it just took a little longer for my license to come through. And I guess part of this question was, what do we hope to learn from this session?
That's your question to me?
Yes.
Okay, so we're doing win the buyer. Great question. That leads me, our last person. That leads me into what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to do win the buyer, and we're going to go through the basics of how to get these buyers qualified, to learn what a qualified buyer looks like. And then I'm going to share with you some of the tools that I use personally in my business that relates to buyers in our area in Virginia, like the rules and how that relates to our buyer's rep. And then just, I'll be able to share, I have some of the stuff that will be in my office, but I'll also show it to you guys online too, that I can send to you. What I typically do is a Google Drive folder and share it with everybody from this class. And it's just a win the buyer folder. And there's all of the stuff that I'm going to share with you is editable. So you can use it and mark it to your business. You can take things out. You can use what you want. So I'll share some of that with you as well. So great. Thank you for leading me into that. You guys have been through 13 sessions of Ignite at this point, and what we're going to be focusing on now is the first part of the transactions, like the transaction process. So we've been learning all about building your business, creating business. Now we're going to talk about the transactions, and we're going to start with buyer. You'll learn more on sellers as we move forward with future sessions. All right, let's move forward. Oh wait, I'm using a clicker. I'm not using this. Okay. I might have waited too long to do this. I've done this before. Mal, I might need your help because I can't go to the next slide, although I could do it on my phone. Hold on. Yeah, it's not, but this does it like when it like freezes up when it's like sat too long. Yeah. All right, while she's getting that together. So I told you a little about what we're going to do. By the end of the day, you're going to be able to identify those qualified buyers. Thank you. And be able to follow up with them with an appointment. We're going to talk about what those A buyers look like. And then work through what a buyer consultation would look like as well. We have time. I'll actually like role play that with you guys on that buyer consultation, because I think that's really important, especially as it relates to talking about commission and how you get paid. All right. Moving on. All right, so your A buyers. Your A buyers are your buyers that are qualified and ready to make a purchase. You're going to have people that approach you and say, I'm ready to buy a house. I don't even know where to start. And you tell me, someone go ahead and speak up. What do you think is the best next? What's the best answer to that response? I'm ready to buy a house. I don't even know where to start.
Have you talked to a lender?
Awesome. Thank you, Marissa. That's exactly what we need to do.
Marissa didn't say that.
That wasn't me. I was about to say it. Somebody else said it.
Shanae said it. Did Shanae, you say that? Thank you.
Yes.
It lit up Marissa's green, but I guess she unmuted at the same time as you. So thank you. That's awesome.
Started at the same time.
So
I don't know. Marissa was a little slow on that one. I think she was about to try to take credit.
So those buyers come from the grocery store, they come from Bible study, they come from your work if you have a part-time job. And they either have done this before or they haven't. And typically if they say, I don't know where to start, they literally have not done this before. And what's cool is you guys have probably had some time, because nobody is brand new, to meet our in-house lender. And we have Todd Call, who's here with Atlantic Coast Mortgage, who is really, really good at helping you win that buyer. He really is. He can be literally, I would consider him part of your team or whoever your preferred lender is. Now, me personally, I try to feel out the type of personality that I'm working with before I refer them to somebody, because I have 3 really good lenders that I love. And so my first goal would be to get it to Todd, just because he's our in-house lender and he does a great job. But if I feel like it might not be a great fit personality-wise, I'm going to suggest 2 or 3 lenders to them and let them make the decision. So after they've told me they're ready, let's do this, the next step would be to get them qualified. Now, that can look a couple ways. I've in the past, I've been a realtor for a while and I still do it the old school way, which would be like an email introduction. I have actually saved on my email different like template emails where I'll have already written out. This is so exciting. We're ready to get you to the next step. Let's get you qualified. Here are 3 preferred lenders. Here's their contact information. Feel free to follow up with them. I will include a link, because what's the one thing a lender is going to want you to do immediately? Anybody?
The application to get pre-approved.
The application to get pre-approved. That's exactly right. So there's not much we can do until we know how much they're going to qualify for, or if they're qualified. Now, we want to stay with them regardless, because we know there's going to be a plan that they will be a buyer at some point. So whether it's immediately or not, they may not be an A buyer, meaning at this point ready and able and willing to buy. We just know that getting that appointment with them or getting them with a lender is going to help us create that time. So let's look at the 7 steps of that service cycle of what that looks like. So we've gotten a lead, we've connected them with a lender, and then we want to kind of get in front of them as well, because remember, when they're new at this, they don't realize or recognize the value of having a realtor. And so you want to immediately impart into them how important you are to this adventure, to the whole process. You are the critical piece. You are the expert. Whether you feel like the expert or not, you are the expert. And being in classes like this, going over your buyer consultation, that makes you the expert. Because guess what? You've been in enough classes to know what the process is to buying a home. So you are a step ahead of them already. So you really want to show yourself as the expert by getting an appointment with them while they're on the other side working with the lender. It is not inappropriate to go ahead and get that appointment set up. What I do is I tell them, it would be, for example, great, you guys are ready. I just cannot tell you how many incredible programs there are out there right now for first-time buyers. And this is a first-time buyer consult I'm talking about. Our lenders have some great programs going on, and I think I'm going to connect you with them, and I think they'll be able to tell you best on what program fits your needs. Whether we're going to be buying in the next 30 to 60 days or 6 months from now, let's go ahead and set up an appointment so that we can talk about what the next steps look like for you all. I want you all to be completely comfortable as we move forward, because 9 times out of 10, when we go to make an offer on a property, everything is done electronically. And for you to sit there and go through the pages of the contract and click, 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 I want you guys to know what you're signing. So let's go ahead and schedule a time that we can meet for coffee or Panera or whatever, so that I can go through what this process looks like for you. You're probably not going to get, oh no, that's not a good idea. Absolutely, they're going to want to do it. Right then and there, you just projected yourself as the expert. So go ahead and get that appointment set up immediately. Preparing for the buyer consultation, we're going to talk about what that looks like. I'm going to go over with you what mine looks like so you can see. Command has some incredible templates for that, and you can personalize everything there. And then finding a home. You're going to get them set up on the search for, with a portal set up so that they start to see properties that fit their criteria. Obviously, can you do that right away?
No,
No, why not?
you have no idea what they like, what they want, what they qualify for.
Exactly, all those things. So first, we need to know what they qualified for. And second, we want to know what they like. I'm going to show you something that I use. There's a couple forms out there, and I'll share these with you guys too. I have this buyer consultation questionnaire that I use. We'll talk more about this. I have a buyer lead sheet and a buyer needs analysis. I'm going to show you guys all those things today online so you can see them, and I can share these with you. This helps you learn a little bit about what their needs are, while in the background, they're working on the financial piece. We'll conduct that buyer consultation. It should take no more than an hour. And then we're going to get that buyer's rep signed. That's an important piece to this. You can do it a couple ways. I share with them a binder because I feel like first-time buyers like to have everything with them, whether they use it or not. And part of this, I have different tabs in mine, and part of this is the buyer's rep. So when I'm going through this, I literally just get to that page and we go through the buyer's rep. I'll talk a little bit about that, what I use later on today as well. All right, and then we'll talk about a little bit about contract to close. I have some contract checklists that I use for buyers under contract. I'll show that with you guys as well. And then post-closing. I am 100% guilty of not following up with the post-closing part of a transaction. Just because you've closed doesn't mean it's over. They should immediately be put on some sort of campaign in Command. And if you don't know what that is, hopefully you do by now because you probably learned a little bit about Command. I'll show you exactly what we use and how we've kind of created a system to stay in touch with our buyers. Okay, let's keep going here. All right. The right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. You just ask for it. So they've raised their hand. They've told you through an open house, through a meeting at a grocery store, or in between sessions at work or at school or at church, that they're thinking about buying a house. That is them raising their hand saying, I want you to help me. That's how I take that. Whether that's really the truth or not, you're going to interpret that as, I need your help. Tell me what I need to do next. So you're going to respond right away on those leads to get that appointment set. Fabulous. When can you meet? Tuesday at 3, or do we need to meet in the evening, Wednesday at 6? All right, so you've connected them with a lender. You've set up an appointment. Now let's talk about what that looks like. All right, we talked about what that buyer looks like, who they come from, where they come from, who that could be, a referral. Now listen, guys, on referrals, This is so important because what someone has done is someone who you know trusts you enough as the expert to refer someone they know to you. So how in the world, okay, so now you have a raving fan who's told someone about you. What is important about that connection? What do you need to do to capitalize on that connection? First, with the person who said, I have someone for you. How are you going to thank them? How are you going to respond? What's the best thing you can do when you get that referral? And this might have to be someone who's been in the business. So Tara or Nicole, you guys might have to answer this, or Tanya. What's the best thing you can do once you receive that referral from someone?
Well, I do two things. Number one, I thank the agent for well, depending on where the referral came from, whoever
Right.
it came from, thank that person and then send them a little token of value, thank you card and like a gift card or something and tell them thank you. And then I immediately reach out to the referral, whoever was whoever the person was that was referred, immediately make a connection with them and schedule an appointment.
Awesome. Great. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. The other piece to that too, Tara, which I'm sure you do, you just didn't say this, is then go back to that referral, whoever it was, to let them know that you followed up. Just
Absolutely.
for peace of mind. So I got a referral earlier this week from an agent in Colorado. I immediately followed up with the referral, set up the time for us to talk. After we were done talking, I texted that agent in Colorado to say, had a great conversation. Thanks so much for the referral. I do the same thing Tara does. We do these little gift cards, $5 Starbucks or whatever, Dunkin', whatever you want to do, gift cards. And the outside of the card says, thanks a latte. And it's just a thank you to that person, that realtor, whoever it was who gave you that referral, just because you want them to feel valued and continue to do that too. So Tara mentioned realtors as being a referral lead. In this brokerage, Keller Williams, you have no reason not to be receiving referrals from agents outside of our market center. It was 30% of my business last year was agent referrals. And the best way to stay in front of those agents who are in our area are consider the areas where people are moving from: California, Colorado, and the North. That's where we're getting most of our buyers from. So start to find realtors. You can find them through Command that you can be a referral partner with, and then stay in touch with them. You want them to be your source to feed your pipeline for your leads of buyers. Most of mine that have come in, and Tara, you can probably say this too, are buyers. So when you get a referral lead from a realtor, I would say 90% of mine are buyer leads. They might have the seller and that person's moving here. So you need to start thinking like that as you're a buyer's agent, because your buyers may sell at some point, or at some point your clients are going to become sellers or buyers in another area. So whatever message you're consistently sending to your sphere also needs to be that you're a referral resource for them, so that they know they can come to you to help them find the realtor for their next purchase. So the referral process goes back and forth on both sides. Thank you, Tara, for that.
You are more than welcome.
All right, that leads to new and repeat business, because when you're constantly in touch with your sphere, you're going to have first-time buyers who then 3 to 5 years later become sellers, who then become buyers again. So it's very important that once they come into your database as a lead, that you convert them to a contact, and then you're constantly staying in touch with them. So you've connected them with the lender, you've set up an appointment. Let's talk about what the next step is. That buyer consultation happens. We'll find them a home, we'll negotiate the contract, and then we move on to contract to close. Again, the post-close systems are a huge piece of this puzzle, and we'll talk about that, what that looks like, because they say that there's a big statistics. I want to say it's in the 80% that most agents after 3 years, most buyers after 3 years cannot remember who their agent was, yet they would refer them or use them again. Well, whose fault is that? You did a good job. Whose fault is it if they don't reach out to you again?
It's our fault for not staying in contact with them.
Absolutely. We've got to stay in touch with them. So that post-closing system is going to be something that you can put on automatic, thanks to command. And then you have to be following some sort of follow-up schedule, whether it's DTD2, if you guys have heard about that, when you're making your calls like that, those new buyers that are now homeowners need to be a part of that. All right. Does anybody have any questions at this point? No. Okay. All right. So we talked about getting that appointment, following up with the leads right away, whether it's coming from someone you know, whether it's coming from an open house and you don't know them. It's actually even more important to follow up with a lead that came from an open house. I know that Nick had a great idea when he does an open house and you've followed up, you've connected with them at the open house. I can promise you that buyers don't think I can use this same realtor who did this open house to show me the house 5 minutes down the road. They don't think like that. So that they'll go to the next open house and then go ahead and use that realtor for more information. It's a game of who's going to follow up first. So what Nick does, which I think is a great idea, is while they're there, he takes some notes at the open house of what he learns about them, whether it's their kids, their dog, the areas they want to look in. And then he follows up with them through a video message on his phone. So he's captured their phone number, and that might be the only piece of information he's received from them. But he follows up immediately with them. It was great talking to you. I know that this house may not have been the one, but there are about 3 or 4 more in this area. I'd love to show you. Let me know would be a great time to connect would be. So that they don't go to the next open house and that agent starts to reach out to them as well. You want that buyer to immediately connect with you. You find something to make a connection with them, to build that relationship with, and then turn that lead into a buyer. When you're talking to them, you're going to find out what's motivating them. When they're at the open house, you're going to ask them, why are we moving, guys? What's going on? Well, we're a growing family. Well, we're new to the area. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. What have you learned about Richmond? What have you seen so far? Your conversations, we talked about this like a Gringy talk yesterday. It doesn't have to always be about real estate. If you're at an open house with them, you have about 2 to 4 minutes to make that connection with them. And they're going to remember maybe not anything about the house, but they're going to remember something that you all talked about and connected on. Especially if it's not the house that they want, they just came in and came out. So find something that you can connect with them on so that you can continue that relationship and you can convert that lead into a buyer. And then of course, as I was saying with what Nick does, he goes ahead and asks for the appointment. You have not because you asked not. You have to ask for that appointment when you're out there. All right. We're going to talk about the close to appointment tactics. Let's look at, I'll find where I am. The different types here. All right. So we have the negative, positive close, the take back close, the trial close, the assumptive close, and the tied-ins. So what's important about this is that we're always closing. We're always asking for that appointment. In general, people are most likely to go along with something you suggest if you explain the benefit to them. It's very important. The take back close. This technique puts a tempting offer in front of the buyer, then subtly creates a fear that they may not be able to get to. So for example, I enjoyed working with you. To be honest, I don't know whether I can be of help or not. However, I'd be honored if we could meet to find out how. How can we set up a meeting? Could we do it for tomorrow at 2 or in the evening at 6? The negative positive close, this is a way of backing into that appointment to close. Would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over all of this in a little bit more detail? I'm free tomorrow. What time works for you? They give them what they are looking for. Quickly pick the buyer's interest by give them what they are looking for. Information on interesting or comparable properties. When I'm doing an open house, I will always have my laptop open so that I know what else is in the area for sale. Because they're going to drive to your listing and they're going to see the 5 houses as it led them to this house. And they're going to want to know the details of those houses as well. So you always want to have something that you can provide as an opportunity to set up another appointment for them. I can send you a list of all the other homes in this area. Give me your email right now. I've had it open on my laptop, and I'll show it to them and be like, hey, you want me to send this list to you? They're like, great. Fabulous. What's your email address? So right away, now I have their email address and I know their name. So now the only thing that's left for me to really get is their phone number. So you've provided them something that hopefully is going to in turn provide that appointment for you. A trial close. Trial closes test the waters first. You should find out whether you and the client genuinely agree. Can you see how receiving a list of the new homes on the market in your price range would really help you in your home search? Great, let's meet. I personally don't like that, but everybody has their own taste of how they want to do these, and you're not going to use all of them. You're going to find what matches your personality. So when I'm sharing these with you, it's going to take 1, role play to kind of get comfortable with these, and 2, doing what matches your personality the most. The assumptive close. It assumes the close and prevents them from saying no. Hey, it sounds like we should meet. I'm available most times this week, so what time works best for you? So you're making the assumption that this is going to be a good fit. And then your tie downs. These are phrases that ask for confirmation, expressions like, wouldn't that be great? Or forming questions with, can't you, or isn't it, or wouldn't you? Ask for the agreement and get your customers into a pattern of saying yes. Hey, listen, we'll save hours on our home search if we can just sit down and meet in the office, get that criteria set up. Let's figure out a time that works for you. Any questions on those? Does anybody like any of these that they feel comfortable that they would use at an open house, for example? Or has anyone used? Peggy's in the room too.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so my very first deal was from an open house, and it really was because this very active couple came through when they said they were going to come back. And so I gave them kind of like a window of, okay, I'll stay here until you can get here.
Okay.
They came back and they were still like, we think we may be interested. So then they left. I did a follow-up.
What did your follow-up look like?
So my follow-up was just a text saying, it was
Okay.
really nice to meet you. If you have any questions about this property, let me know. I can help you.
Okay.
Well, then I identified that I was not the listing agent, and they had no idea, even though I told them in the open house. So I learned from that it was important for me to tell them again. Well, by telling them that, they realized they could write a contract.
Yes.
With me, so they did.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
We won the contract. But it was like giving them enough information.
Yep.
To where because sometimes you feel like you're telling them everything in the open house, but they're really not getting everything.
Right.
So I want to repeat that.
That's awesome.
But the video thing is really,
I know it is great. Did everybody hear what Peggy said? This is very key, especially as you guys are doing open houses for other people. When she followed up with these people through text, they came back to the open house. She talked to them a little bit more, and she made it clear at the beginning, but then reiterated in conversation that she is not the listing agent. Well, some people are fearful in working with someone who represents the seller if they're interested in buying the house, because what is that called if you're working with both the listing and the buyer?
Dual.
Yes. And Personally, I don't do it. It is a very tricky situation to put yourself in because you cannot represent both parties fairly. So these people kind of knew that. And so they weren't really going to follow up with her because they thought she was a listing agent. Well, the minute she reiterated and spoke to them about the fact that she's not the listing agent, they realized, well, that they could use her as an agent to represent them. And they ended up making an offer on that property that she was doing the open house for.
And we
So,
won.
and they won.
It was like half and half.
Moral of the story. That's awesome. So for one, do the open houses because you just never know. And really make sure that you're communicating with people who you are in the whole process too. All right, again, has anybody used these type of close conversations, these tactics when talking to buyers?
I haven't used them, but hearing them, I definitely will start to use them when I do open houses. So I feel like it'll really help guide the conversation and end with the end result of getting a buyer.
Getting the appointment.
Yeah.
So I think what you have to do is just practice what feels the most comfortable to you to make it more natural. And then always keep in mind that the goal is, no matter which one of these you would be using, is to set an appointment. So whatever you end with on these, just remember that the goal is to set the appointment.
One more thing that you said that I thought was really important, that has worked really well for me, and it's always surprised me. When I have an opportunity to have a personal conversation outside of real estate with someone, I typically get a call from them. I get calls from people where I didn't do the follow-up properly, and I'm the first one to say, oops, I messed that up. And then I got a call because there was a different connection that we made, and there was something that they remembered.
Yep.
It was like a trigger. So I will say those outside conversations, like if you have something in common, or they're from somewhere that you're familiar with, like that type of conversation in an open house is valuable. Like
absolutely, it's so important to find that connection. And like I said, please know that it does not have to be real estate related. It might be the kind of dog they have. It might be the area they're moving from. It might be what they've visited since they've been here. It might be the fact that they have an 8-year-old and you have an 8-year-old. Like there's all of the things. And as soon as you make and find that connection, the better off you are. I would imagine there's been a study about this to say the chances of the follow-up of that buyer and the trust that that buyer immediately places in that individual that they've just met is 100% higher.
Oh yeah.
Than just the normal conversation.
Especially with people coming here from out of town, because it seems like half the people that come through open houses are from out of town. And so they don't know anyone. So making that personal connection
absolutely
is going to give them one step closer to trust for you versus someone they don't know, and they'll look up in, not the phone book, but
If I were you, this is a great idea. Peggy had mentioned about the people that are moving to this area. We have lots of people that come through open houses that aren't from here and they don't have realtor representation. I would create a little gift bag for them that you're giving to those people that are new to the area. And you can make it fun by creating a little map of your favorite spots to visit in Richmond or sightsees or whatever it is, to be like a little diagram of something that has to do with our city or the area that you're working in or the area that they're going to be moving in. Maybe a list of helpful phone numbers, and then just sort of something item of value, whether it's a sticker that says RVA or something like that. That's a great connection that's super cheap and easy to do. I
love that.
Very, very simple, very simple. So you've made that connection with them. And if you can just give them something small like that, what I always do in the, I guess say slower season, the season where Maria says that the agents turn into pumpkins, I always reevaluate what I'm doing as far as my touches, what I'm doing as far as like reaching out and then perfecting my systems. And that while you're new and starting to like create systems and build systems, this is the time to do these kind of things. So if you're going to do something like this, where you have a little gift bag for them and it has an RVA sticker in it, and it has, which by the way, you can get at the, you used to be able to go to the convention center and just get them from there. I think you could probably reach out to the, what is it called? The Travel Bureau of Richmond, that I can't remember the name of it. Maybe the chamber. It might be the chamber, but there is places you can buy those little RVA stickers. They used to give them away down there at the convention center. And then just keep it, like make 10 at a time. And so that you have them with you and bring them to the open houses. And then after conversation, you've connected with someone, they're new to the area. Here, I'd love to give this to you. If you have any more questions, this is just my favorite places to go in Richmond. We've made a community guide on our team, and it has like our favorite restaurants. And there's so much to see and do in Richmond. It won't take long for you to come up with like a little map or like a treasure hunt or a scavenger hunt for the kids or something like that. You could stick in there, and that's just a takeaway that they would love. All right, let's keep going. Oh shoot, sorry. I'm looking at my screen. All right, buyer objections to the appointments. To get the signed buyer's agreement, we first have to get that appointment. That's the important part. So when we're sitting down with them, I told you that I go over the buyer's agreement in my appointment. You want to provide all of your items of value or your expertise, and then you're going to get that agreement signed. So that there's no reason for them not to, because now you've displayed yourself as the expert. You've talked about what they want as far as the home. You've already made those connections. So the close is getting that agreement signed. You've confirmed your appointment. You pick the location. You make sure everybody who are the decision makers are in attendance. Do not just get the wife to come, because the husband has to affirm this as well. I hate to say it, but there are many times where I've connected with all the moms at school, but in the end, guess who the one is that makes the decision on which realtor they use? The husband. So you want to be in front of both of them at that appointment, whether it's online or if it's in person. I strongly recommend doing it in person, because there's just something about that connection. I know we've just entered into a new world because of COVID of being online, but there's so much more. You can read people a lot better when you're in person with them than online. Right. I would love to see your faces in here and not your names on the screen. Okay. Buyer's guide. I showed you guys this, what I use. So there's a couple ways to do it. And the command is where I got all of this information. I have this I call it a buyer consultation playbook, which, by the way, I edited all this, but the format is from command, and I'm going to pull it up in just a second. And then I have this buyer consultation playbook that's a binder. Really depends on what kind of buyer you're talking to. If it's a buyer that's bought before, I usually just go through this. It's a lot of the same content, but there's a couple things that I focus on regardless of what type of buyer it is. Meaning there's a roadmap in here that goes through the process. There's the 10 commandments of what to do and what not to do when it comes to buying a home. And believe it or not, you'll have buyers who have bought before that make mistakes like go get a credit card right before they close so that they can buy all their new furniture. But then on this one, I told you, I have a place in here where they can put their buyer's agreement, because that's going to be that's a big part of what we go over. They can put their tour of their homes in here. I have a little bit about our team, and then they can put any miscellaneous information. I just had a first-time buyer that we closed last week. She brought this to her walkthrough. She brought this to the home inspection. She really utilized this book to the extent that it's supposed to be used. She had her home inspection. This is embarrassing, and I will be honest with you. She had our repair request plus all the receipts that the agent had provided, so that we could match them up to what the repairs were at the re-inspects. And I hadn't printed anything. Now, part of the reason I don't is I have an iPad and I don't like to just print for no reason. So I'll pull it up on either my phone or my iPad. She had it all in her binder. I was so proud of her. And I was like, this is how you use something like this. So I'm going to show you guys online the content of this. This will not be editable. This is a PDF. But the reason why is because it's in command and you can edit yourself with all of your information. I've pulled pages out because this is something you're going to be going over and you want to feel comfortable with it. So you want to make it more of a natural conversation. And there's probably pages in here that don't mean anything to you that you're like, yeah, I don't even need to touch on that. So you're going to have to practice this before you go over it. All right. Hi, how are you? Okay. We're going to talk to them about, a lot of times, and I have a problem with this too, is talking too much. We definitely want to let them talk. And what guides you through that or are going through some questionnaires with them, because then you can really get to the bottom of what their real issues are, of what the needs are. You really want to know what's important to them. I'm going to share with you. What I use, I've got. This is one of the things I use. And this is helpful for getting answers to questions. I'll show that to you what I'm showing. It's called a buyer consultation questionnaire. The one I'm showing you is the financial one. This will be really helpful for them to know, asking some questions about what's important to them. Now, a lot of times this is done by the lender. So I get real weirded out by asking them too much. I think more important to find out is just if they're ready to buy, and really just basics. Do they have any idea what they qualify for? I think that's really the important parts. This one is the better one. Hold on, let's see. Share this. I want to make sure. Ah. Can you guys see this? The buyer consultation questionnaire?
Yes,
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay, cool. So this buyer consultation questionnaire, I'll put in this folder. This is a Word document. So you can go through this and you can use whatever you want or not use it at all. This is really helpful in learning about who your buyers are. You're going to learn what's prompting them to move. You're going to learn who's moving with them. You're going to learn what they think may be their price range. They may not have spoken to a lender yet, so they may not know that. You're going to learn, are there pets involved? You're going to learn, are there any special needs? So if you guys, I want to make sure you guys see this right. You see definitely at the top, it says buyer consultation questionnaire.
No, it's the buyer
Financial one.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I want this one's better. I want to make sure you have this one. Share screen. Share. All right, now you see this one, correct?
Kristen, let me ask you a question. You said
Yeah.
your buyer consultation only takes an hour. Mine usually take about 2 hours and sometimes a little bit more. But I go in detail, in depth, and ask a lot of questions. Are you just giving them these questionnaires to fill out while you're doing your presentation? Is that
No.
how your presentation goes slower? I mean, goes faster?
No, and actually, that's a great question. So if we're doing it all together at the same time, some of this, I might break it up and I do this prior to meeting with them. So this might be over the phone versus when we meet in person, I might be going through the binder or the book. There's really two slides in the book that are the most important, and it's the roadmap that talks about the process and then the financial part of it. So I try to put this in their hand ahead of our meeting so they can go through it. But the buyer consultation questionnaire, I may have already done this over the phone to kind of just set up a search for them or to see what we're looking at. This kind of helps build a rapport around more questions or deeper questions you might ask. But if you're doing it all at one time, the two big things you're going to go over are your buyer's rep, the roadmap, and the questionnaire. It could take an hour and a half. The problem is, no offense, but our millennials just cannot hang that long. It is so much information and it's overload. And the other part that's actually really important to go over is the terms of a contract. So more than the buyer's agreement, I talk about the contract itself, the contingencies, what money they're going to have on hand prior to closing, all of those things. And that takes some time. And I always explain to them, listen, you're going to ask me a million more questions along the way, and that's okay because there are no stupid questions in this process. So understand what I'm telling you is like drinking from a fire hose right now. It's okay. It's okay to like take a minute to let it process. This questionnaire, if you can do it outside of the meeting, it really does help though. Great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I will share this. I'll put this in that Google Drive too, so you can have that. You guys can have that. I will also show you, let me show you the playbook. When I told you about the playbook that we used, this is what we use. And can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I have so many things open. I think it's probably just, you see it now, correct? So this is the playbook that I use. It goes through a little bit about our team, some testimonials, things I don't really talk about in the meeting. Fear versus fact, really don't go through that. This is an important piece to them. Don't see that up here.
Is that from Command? Did you get that from Command?
I did not. I actually had our virtual assistant create that for me, and it's a page that I inserted. And I do not mind sharing that with you guys. The only problem is, well, he might have done it on Canva. And if so, then you can change it to the colors that you need. But we created this. This was not in Command. It looked very different, the one they had, and it was like old school, and I did not like it. So I wanted this. I was in a class, like a Gary Keller mastermind, and someone was sharing their buyer presentation, and I saw they had a roadmap. I think it was Jenny Shaw, maybe. And I was like, oh, I like this visual. So this is a very important piece to your consultation conversation. And then finances, I talk a little bit about that, but the most important piece of this is, hold on. The process, you talk about that, but you go through that when you do the roadmap. And then, oh, did I miss it? Oh, do's and don'ts right here. Financing your future, do's and don'ts. So this is very important too, to talk to them about what not to do and what to do during this process of trying to find a house. And it's always good if you have a story to relate to too on this. I tell them a story all the time of this buyer I had one year, sweet little young first time buyer, who we were through inspections, we were through appraisal, we were literally 3 days from closing. And they do a soft pull of your credit, the lender will, right before closing. And they had done a soft pull of her credit, and she no longer qualified for the house because she thought her credit card was on automatic payment, and it was not, and it was now 60 days late. So she no longer qualified for the house. So tell me this. I did not hear that.
Yeah, I had a situation just like that, and they were my buyers were first time home buyers, and they were doing new construction with the builder on that name. However, I was able to get a different lender to get them approved with the lower credit score, which was still within, the range of them being able to purchase. It's just that the builder's overlay was different,
Gotcha.
and we still was taking close. But she did the exact same thing. It was horrible.
Hers dropped 40 points because of this.
What?
40 points.
Yeah.
So in the end, tell me this. What is this a scenario where she could have gotten her earnest money back?
She was able to get, well, I found another lender. So
No.
she didn't lose any of her money.
In my situation where the girl no longer qualified for the loan, which means her loan was denied, would she be able to get her earnest money back?
Well, I think so, because it's a financial contingency.
Right. So part of the financial contingency, even though we were a day or two from closing, she could have gotten her earnest money back because her loan was denied. Now, in the end, she made the right decision. The sellers had already moved out. She made the right decision to let go of her earnest money because it was her fault. She totally messed up.
Oh, so she
Did give it up to the seller. Yeah. You know who that deal was with? Joni Justice in our office.
Oh, no.
And I felt so bad. It was awful. I will never forget that transaction. So after that, I will never not go over this document because there's things that people just don't think about. This is a very important piece to that. I don't understand why you guys put this here. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Okay, so we talked about the buyer consultation. We talked about how long it should be. You really got to be specific about what your intentions are, what your goals are. Let me get back to my Zoom screen here, find it somewhere. All right, guys, I gotta look for this, where you're at here. Let me fix it. There we go. Okay. So preparing for that buyer consultation, it's very important that you know what you're going to be talking about. You have the buyer needs analysis, you have the buyer consultation form, you have a playbook, you have a binder, you know what kind of buyer you're going to be speaking with.
We still can't see the Ignite slides. It's your home screen on your laptop.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Stop share maybe. Now can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then we're going to be conducting that buyer consultation. Talk about what you're going to bring. Try to stick within an hour to an hour and a half. I think 2 hours is pushing it. I honestly think I might have lost a buyer because I went through it took so long. And it was virtual, which makes it even harder for them. And here's the other thing. Set the expectation with them of how long it's going to take. And I think if I would have done that from the beginning, they could have planned because then they felt rushed and they had to be somewhere and I didn't know that. So when you're setting up that appointment, let them know, hey, this is going to take about an hour to an hour and a half. Really want to set some time to make you all informed about how this process works. Kind of set the stage of what you're going to be talking about. I'm going to get to learn what's important to you, build your search, learn about the areas that you're thinking about, and then I'm going to go through the steps of buying the home. All right, 10 top service areas of a buyer value proposition. The needs analysis, the pre-qualification and pre-approval, which you'll connect them with the lender for that. Neighborhood information. Let's say you met them at an open house and they really, really want to be in that neighborhood. Well, if that's the case, you need to make sure you know the amenities of the neighborhood, you know the HOA costs of that neighborhood, as much information as you can give them about that neighborhood. If there's a Facebook group for that neighborhood, join the Facebook group if they'll let you. If there's a website, learn about the 4th of July bike parade, learn about the twice a year yard sale, learn about the pond if you can fish from it, all the things that if they're specific to a neighborhood, be the expert, learn everything you can about that going into that appointment so you can share with them everything you know about that appointment. And then specifically, if you find someone you know in that neighborhood, or if you know someone, then connect with them and say, is there anything I need to know? Do you know anybody in your neighborhood that's already put on their Facebook group that they're thinking about selling? Do you know anything? These people want to be just in this community. I would love to know ahead of time if there's any houses going on the market. Now, if they're that specific and they want one specific neighborhood, you might also create a golden letter for that neighborhood, which is a letter that goes out to homes that match their search criteria, meaning 4 bedrooms, 3 full bath and a basement, just to those sellers to say, hey, I have a buyer who's ready, willing, and able, who only wants to be in your neighborhood. If you're thinking about selling, please reach out. So become the expert if it's very neighborhood specific. You're going to get that home search set up. I'm assuming you guys know how to do that. Has everyone set up a home search or a gateway, like a portal on the MLS at this point? Yeah. Okay.
I think so, yes.
Okay. All right. If you haven't, during a break, I'll do a quick tutorial on that too. Then you go through the process with them. You'll end up making an offer on something. You'll negotiate that offer for them. Then you'll help with vendor coordination. Think about it. If they're new to the area, they don't know anybody. They don't know the painters. They don't know the electricians. They don't know the home inspectors. So you need to have some processes in place as to when you go under contract, what the next steps are. So we have actually, if you don't use a transaction coordinator, which I highly recommend, we have email templates that go out throughout the process. It can be a video that you send them to say, hey guys, congratulations, we made it through home inspection. Next up is appraisal. The lender is going to reach out to me or to the listing agent to set up a time to get that scheduled. We'll have it back in 7 to 10 days. So you kind of want to be a step ahead of them so that they're not asking you all the questions. I make a point every Monday to just be on the phone with my buyers and sellers, whether they're under contract or coming to the market, just so we're in front of them. I would hate for them to meet the neighborhood realtor who wants that listing or who wants them as a buyer to turn into a transaction for them. So to stay in front of them, I just use that Monday to make those phone calls or connections or video text or whatever makes the most sense for you to stay in front of them. You'll go through the process of closing, what it looks like, paint the picture for them. It's about an hour. We'll do it at a title company. And then what happens after closing to get it set up. Did I guys make you guys feel guilty that you decided to come in?
No, I was ready to come in.
Okay. Okay.
You're like me, but I got this.
All right. I told you, we talked a little bit about the buyer guide content. I showed you the roadmap or the playbook that we use in the binder. Like I was saying, you can divide it into sections where it includes some of the content from that consultation. But then I have a section for specifically just the process, the buyer's agreement, tour of home. So if they want to keep any information about that, information about our team. Remember, your team is your transaction coordinator, your home inspector, your lender. You can include all that as a part of your team. And then anything miscellaneous. This is like a glossary of terms. You're not going to go through all of this. I promise you it would take way too long. Again, the key components to that consultation is the roadmap, a contract and buyer's rep agreement, and then the do's and don'ts of the whole process. Yes.
So do you always keep it in a binder for them?
This is mostly for first-time buyers.
Oh, okay.
So I like to give this to them because they like to use it. Some will use it to the full extent, some will never see it again, but they'll print off their home inspection and put that in there, their appraisal and put it there. So it is helpful. The one that I give to everybody regardless is this consultation playbook. Everybody gets this. It includes some of the same information, but this may not be for a first time. I mean, that's more for a first time buyer. This can be for anybody. Are you done with this? Again, that information is all on command. It's editable. I would highly recommend using what they have in there. These are all things that you can include in the buyer guide content. Also just understand that most of this is in command and you can pull out the pages that you don't want to use. Now, remember you have different types of buyers. You have your first time buyers, you have your investors, you have your second home buyers. So you're going to have people that have been through this process. I would say it's still important for one to go over a contract. I have buyers who come into town and have never gone through a CVR MLS contract. Why would they? They're not from the area. So they need to know the terms of our contract. So that's a very important piece to a buyer consultation, regardless if this is their first or fifth home to buy. The process, everybody does closing a little bit different. Every state does. Some only use attorneys. Some do funding the same day. Some don't let you have the keys at closing. Some do. So it's important to set the expectation of what that process looks like too. So it never hurts to go through that playbook, regardless of the type of buyer. Now, an investor is one of your buyers too. Your consultation with an investor may look a little different. And if that is a road that everybody decide, or if you decide to go down, this will probably not be anything you'll go through with them. It'll look different, as in you're really going to share with them the market. That's really what you're going to focus on with your investors. The areas where we're going to see that are hot for flips, for holds, for all of those kind of things, and then days on the market. You're going to provide to them who you know, who your connections are as far as contractors. So you gear your consultation to your audience. I said command really has a lot of great information in there. Again, it's all editable. You can put everything from your colors to your logo. I will share with you guys that roadmap. I think it's a Canva document, which means if you have Canva, you can create it yourself with your colors and that kind of thing too. It's a very helpful document. All right, on the buyer guide, there's really nothing more that we need to talk about as far as what it includes, because we really have gone over everything. I'll start to share with the people who are online some of the content from the binder. What's different about that? I've showed you guys the consultation. We'll talk about contract to close in a little bit. This is just setting up their profile. What time do we end here? Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. If you have not set up a search before for a buyer, I'm going to show you guys how to do that real quick. But if you have and wanted to take a break, go for it. All right, let's do this.
Kristen, I have a random question for you, and it does not pertain to what we're talking about.
Oh, Lordy, what is it?
It's really crazy. So I saw the picture of you and your family, right? Is your husband on a commercial on CBS?
Yes, he is. He's on a lot of commercials on CBS. He is, yes.
I'm like, that looks like Kristen's husband.
He works for an organization called VHBG, and he also went to VCU and played basketball. And CBS 6 is a sponsor for both of them. So they use him a lot for both pieces. And he also his dad was murdered when he was 5. And so around Father's Day, they did like this 3-part special on him. And this kid that my husband took under his wing, who's like a business owner now. And they told their story together. To be honest, and it's terrible, I have not even watched all of it because it's so often that he's on TV that I can't keep up with it anymore. But yes, we'll never tell. We'll never tell. I know. Someone was like, "Have you heard his podcast?" And I'm like, I have not. So, because I know all the stories already. So he's been on a couple podcasts too. So he's got a good a good voice. So they like to use him for basketball, for VCU type stuff because of him being an alumni. Okay.
Okay.
Who was that who asked that? Was that Tanya?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm in the MLS and I'm setting up a buyer. Everybody can see this, correct? Does everybody see my MLS?
Yes.
I do not know why why y'all can't.
Are you running?
Yes, I can see it.
I think if you're running it from your computer, I don't think it'll feed into.
It won't?
I don't think.
But
so.
I'm a viewer too. That is so weird. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I've never done it.
I don't know what I would have to do. Maybe Mal can come in here and tell me what I need to do. Okay. So I'm always gonna set them up on coming soons and actives, and you guys can't see any of this. But you guys have set up searches, so you know, but you don't. If you want to come stand behind me, you're more than welcome to. So I'm always gonna check off coming soon because in the Richmond MLS, our coming soon listings do not go to Zillow. In the Williamsburg MLS, the coming soon listings do, but the Richmond listings do not. So if you put a listing as coming soon, the only people that are going to see it are the people who have portals set up. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have a buyer who's ready, and they've told me their price point is going to be between, or their lender has told me, $450 and $550. I just need to put it there, $450 to $550, because the zeros are already here at the bottom. I know that they need at least a 3-bedroom. So I'm going to put 3+, and they need at least 2 full baths. So I'm going to put 2+. I also know that they only want to be in a certain area, and I'm going to put Hanover because that's where I live. I try to keep it as broad as possible because if you know their price range, if you know what is a must, which is the bedroom, bathroom, don't put square footage because they really don't know how much square footage they need. A layout could be totally different on a 1,500 square feet home and an 1,800 square foot home. So don't do the square footage. Don't even mess with it unless you have a seasoned buyer who is like, I absolutely have to have 3,800 plus square feet. If it's a first time buyer, there is no reason for you to do anything other than the area, the price range, and the minimum bedroom and bathroom. So I have set up this search for them. And if you look down the bottom here, it's created 25 matches for me. I pull up that, there's one coming soon, and the rest are all active listings. It looks like this whole section here is new construction. Can anybody tell me why I know that this is all new construction? These are all the same address. Meaning street names. So they're building some townhouses somewhere in Hanover that have all similar, can you see that? Addresses right here.
Okay.
Secret null.
Okay.
All right. You should have in one of these columns, the subdivisions. And then at the end, you'll have your prices here. The very end of your days on market. So that'll tell you. When it's new construction, there won't be any days on market on here. That's another way I know that this is new construction. Yep. This means that they've at some point done a price reduction because you see this arrow that's gone down. You've got your square footage here. How many rooms are in the house, which is kind of a dumb, I don't even know why they even use that. But then you have your bedroom and total baths.
And they don't have the years built on this.
Not on this home screen. And I don't know, you might be able to add it as your part of your view, but I've never figured that part out. So I like this search. This works for them. This is broad. This is perfect. So I'm going to save this search. So I click save, and then I do new auto email. I'm not hearing you guys. I just want to confirm you see everything that I'm talking about. Can someone please just say yes? I think
I
everybody.
can see, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it possible to enlarge it a little bit? Oh,
Hold on. Let's see. Is that better?
yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I've done is I've created now an email that's going to go out as the first welcome email to this person. In this top section, I'm going to put their information. Well, guess what? I don't have them saved already as a buyer. So I'm going to have to create them as a new contact. So then I'm going to put their information in here. The only required information is what's in yellow, their first and last name and their email address. Then I'm going to save them as a buyer, and then it'll automatically populate into here. So right now, when I click that, it doesn't check off BCC me a copy of all emails because I am the buyer. If I were to put Gerard as my buyer, it's going to allow me to click BCC me on all emails so that you get a copy of everything that's being sent to your client. You want that. In the subject line, which is also a required field, you're going to put a subject that they're going to recognize. So for example, this is listings in Hanover. It's actually just one section of Hanover too. Between 450 and 550. And then if you even want to do more detail, you could put with 3+ bedrooms. Now, the reason why this is important is it actually helps you too, when you see these emails come through, that you can kind of recall who this search is for. This is a very important piece to this. As you scroll down, I always check off ASAP, meaning you want this email to go out to them as soon as that listing hits this MLS. Not daily, not monthly, ASAP. And then you save the search. Once I've hit save on that search, it's automatically going to send this person here an email welcoming them to their portal, and then they can set up all of their things on there. They can start to save their favorite listings that they see. They can trash the ones that suck, all those kind of things. So this is how you set up a portal for a buyer. Does anybody have any questions on that? I'm sorry that you guys can't see that. I still don't know why that's not happening, but.
Hey, Christy, it's Tara. I got a question. When you set up a auto email, is there any way to indicate something to trigger you when your client has favorited a particular property?
There isn't.
Mm.
I wish there was. There really isn't. I know that realtors will reach out to me to tell me that. That's usually how I hear about it. Meaning a realtor that has a listing that they favorited will reach out to me and say, hey, we're a match. Your buyer favorited our listing. Let's see if you can get it scheduled to show it.
Do you have a best practice where you go out and, to trigger you to search and see?
Time block it. I really don't. Okay. But I will say, when I have a buyer who's like super specific about an area, when those listings come through, I immediately open the email and look at them, and I'll forward it again to them or reply all, because when it sends you the email, it's also sending it to them, and I'll reply all and say, this is a good one, guys. We should probably go see this.
That's good.
If I'm on my game and like paying attention, especially if we're under a time crunch timeline, you're really paying attention to what's coming up. I also really make a point, you guys, to look at the hot sheet every morning. And I know that that's probably not even a term that you guys hear anymore. If you've been a realtor for a while, when you go, let me share my screen again. When you go into the MLS and you're on the home screen, you have your active listings, and then you have new listings right here. My new listings are set up that it's the last 7 days worth of listings. So you can change this to be the last 24 hours, today, 3 days, 7 days. If you're really good, try to keep this as today, but you got to know you're checking it every day. So within the last 7 days, there's been 301 new listings that have come on the market. It's always good to pay attention when you log in to that number, because that kind of gives you an idea of the numbers that Maria talks about in our team meeting. If this number drops, this 301, or goes up, it's either because we had a holiday, the snow, we're entering spring season. This 301 is going to go up as we enter into spring season, spring market. So I always pay attention to this, and I'll click on the new listings, and then I'll sort it by area so that I can just get a full view. Okay, I have 3 buyers that are looking in area 10 right now. Let's see what we have coming on here. Okay, this one might be near the water, so let me check this because they really want to be near the water. Okay, let's move on down. I have someone who's looking in North Side. It looks like there's a new listing coming up in North Side. Like, you just got to pay attention. And that's the hot sheet. If you can time block for that, that's always helpful too, because then you're kind of ahead of it. And then you can do the same thing with coming soons too. This is a big one. When you set up your search for your buyers, make sure they're aware of the coming soon feature. Because when they get the listing, they'll see it listed as coming soon with the date of when it's projected to go active. Now, if you have a buyer and they've said, this is the house, it's coming soon, and this has happened to me, so I'm going to tell you why it's very important. And they think this is the house, and you look at it and you agree. One, you're going to go ahead and set up the appointment right away, even if it's 2 weeks out. Two, you're going to call that agent and say, is there any chance this is going to go active sooner than the date you put in here? Because when an agent puts a listing in, if they put it in and they pick a date and they are not ready to go on market, if they didn't change the date, it's automatically going to set to active. So a lot of times agents will push out that coming soon date as far as possible just to buy them some time. And you don't want to miss when this property is going to go active. So you may have set up the appointment based on the fact that it's going to be active on this date, but it ends up going active sooner. And you don't want this buyer to miss out. So you call the agent and say, I have a buyer who's been eyeing this property. Is it really true that you're going to go active on the 21st? No, we're actually going to do pictures next week. Great. I'll wait till you set it active to set up the appointment, because showing time will not allow you to set up appointment any sooner than the coming soon projected active date. So stay in touch with, I've watched many listings go from coming soon to active depending like that, because people weren't paying attention. And by people, I mean agents. So especially if a buyer has reached out to you to say, this is the one, you better be on your best. Look out for that house for them. Any questions on portals and buyer setup and all the things when it comes to MLS? We good? Okay. All right. Somebody have a question? All right, next section we're talking about is the preference profile. This profile is about uncovering the expectations and preferences for communication and anticipated timeline for your buyer. You may not know the timeline for your buyer because they haven't spoken with the lender yet. But the timeline you can share that with them is what? What's a timeline that we know as a realtor when it comes to buying a house? Inspections are a timeline we can share with them. We know that they're anywhere between 3 to 14 days, an inspection contingency. What else are timelines that we know? Earnest money, when that's due by, absolutely. That's a timeline we can share with them. What else?
Appraisal.
Appraisal, what does our contract state? The appraisal has to be ordered within what? Within 5? No, 15. Within 15 days of us going under contract, of us being ratified, the appraisal has to be ordered. Believe it or not, this is a deadline that does get overlooked. So let's just say you put 14 days on your home inspection contingency, but the appraisal has to be ordered within the first 15 days. Is that going to work? No. And here's why. When you write an offer on a property and it's accepted, you've already had the conversation with the buyer about what that timeline looks like next. So now they're under contract and they're excited. And what do we do now? What do we do now? I know you just met last week and I just told you everything you're going to do. They don't remember. They don't remember at all. But they'll recall it when you bring it back up to them. So the next step is to get our earnest money in. How many days do you have to get the earnest money in? Is it written in the contract? Is it a set time or do you set the time? You set the time. What's the typical? What do people put in their contract as far as 3, 5 days? Some people do check, some people don't, some people do online. So you want to give them that time to get their money. And some have to set up a wire because it's a large amount and they're transferring money from another bank. You really should put 5 for that reason, unless you're like in a multiple offer situation and you know that they have the funds in their account, because some will put a hold on that big of a transfer if it's a large amount. So 5 days is a really good number to use when it comes to getting that earnest money in.
I also look at the weekend, just because
That's a great
title
point.
company and
Yeah.
just making sure everybody can get this moving.
Yeah, that's a great point. Peggy said pay attention to the weekend too, because that is a part of that timeline.
Because it's calendar.
Yep. All right. What's another timeline that's a part of our contract? HOA docs, absolutely. When a buyer receives the HOA docs on a community, how long do they have to review them? 3 days. They have 3 days to review them, and if they are not happy with what the rules are of the community, what can they do?
That's the one out.
They're out. It is actually, in a multiple offer situation, a contingency you cannot remove. It is not a negotiable contingency in a contract. You can negotiate home inspection contingency, you can negotiate the financing if you're cash. And if you just know that they're gonna qualify for this loan and it cannot be a part of the process. And then appraisal, you can negotiate that too. The HOA contingency means that the seller has to provide to you the rules of the association, any violations that the seller has on their specific property. And if you own a painting business and you bring your work truck home every night, but the rules of the HOA says you cannot park a work vehicle in your driveway, well, that might be a determining factor of whether you're going to live there or not. So that's an important piece that they need to know, that you need to know as well, and it is not negotiable. Close date, that's another one. How long does it take to typically close? This is like a loaded question. Close on a contract. 30 days-ish, 30 days-ish. A lender will tell you to be safe 30. A lender can do 2 to 3 weeks.
Depends on financing too.
Absolutely. You also have to know your buyer. If you have a first-time buyer, you absolutely want to put 30 days in there. If you have a seasoned buyer who's type A that have everything on their computer of what they're going to need to get to that lender, meaning the tax documents, their pay stubs, their bank statements, then you know you can be a little bit more aggressive on your timeline.
And it can be part of the negotiating tactic.
Correct.
Like winning an offer.
That can be a huge factor. Now, the important piece to that is, what's the seller want? So when you go to make an offer on a property and when it comes to timeline, that's a big question for a listing agent. What's the seller need as far as a close date? If it's a vacant property, are they going to want to extend 45 days? No. Vacant properties, they want to close on those as soon as possible. A rent back, they might want to rent back. A rent back is when after you've closed, the seller gets to stay in the property a certain amount of days or weeks after the closing. Now that can be for free. That can be charged as a per diem. There can be trade-offs of what they get as a result of that. It's another negotiating piece. It's very important if you're going to make an offer on a property that you could connect with the listing agent to find out what's important for the seller as far as a timeline. All right. Let's keep going here. When you're building that wish list for the buyer, you're going to set up that portal for them. You're going to go through the buyer consultation paperwork that I gave you, kind of to hear what their needs are. I will tell you this. There's a lot of times where we'll sit down with you and tell you what their must-haves are. They have to have a fenced-in backyard because they have a dog. Well, for one, you don't want to actually put that down in as part of their search because a fence can easily be installed. And not all realtors even mark it off as it's not a required field that a listing agent has to put in as if it has a fence or not. So that is not something you want to put in as far as their search criteria. They may say they have to have a pool. Now, some are pretty sold on that, but what if there's a community pool? So you might have to dig a little deeper on this wish list with them on what's important to them. I try to get with them and say, what are your top 5 must-haves? And even then, I told you what I put in as the search. Their price point, their area, and the minimum bedroom and bathroom. And that's it. I tell them, you're going to get listings that you'll know right away won't be a fit. Just keep moving on. I tell them when you get this search email set up, the client gateway set up, your first email is going to have a whole lot of listings in it, between 30 and maybe 75 listings. Nowadays, it's probably like 30 and 45 listings. But after that, it's just going to be as they hit the market. So kind of set that expectation for them. You'll have buyers that are waiting and ready for those emails to come through. You'll have buyers that won't look at it for days. You will get notifications, Tara. The only notification I know of is you get when they haven't opened it for a while. I know that's one that I've seen come through before.
Yep, I agree.
So the buyer guide wish list, what you see in front of you is all part of that consultation questionnaire that I'll share with you guys. It's a lot of questions. You may just kind of go through that, either take some out or just hit some of the hot points. As you've learned who they are, they have kids, our school district's important. Have you researched to know what school district you want to be in? Have you researched to know what school you want to be in? You can set up their search around that one school. If it's just, they have to be here. I had a client tell me the other day, they're going through a hard thing with their neighbors, and their daughter is school age. The other two are not. And I think she's like 6. And she's like, we have to stay here. Well, do you? I mean, Hanover, okay. But I mean, all of the elementary schools for the most part are good in Hanover. That's how I feel about it. But they want 10 plus acres, and they want a farm, and they want a barn for the horses. So that is super important. So if we find that house in rural points, I don't think they're going to say no to it, because their 6-year-old will have a hard time transferring. So you kind of decide after talking to them on what's important. In this situation, I'm setting up the search for them, and I'm not sharing it with them. Because if something comes up, I'll share it with them after that. Because they're going to say, well, this isn't Feed to South Anna. It doesn't, but this is everything that you would want. You think that Lila could adjust to moving into a different school? I think after 6 weeks, she'd be fine. Make new friends. It's elementary, it's not high school. You're not going to tell them that, but you know that. All right. Talk about what's important accessibility wise. If you're dealing with older family that have to have a first floor primary, that actually is a checkbox on here. So you could check off first floor primary. That's a big one. Very big one. So that, or if they're going to have mother-in-law move in with them, they may be the young family, but we're seeing a lot of multi-generational living these days. So that might be an important piece, that they have to have that first floor primary. House built, nah. I mean, if they want newer, you could just do 2000 and above if they're like, that's the one. But what if it's an older home that they've torn down to the studs and it's completely renovated? Are they going to say no to that? So like I said, keep your searches pretty broad, but yet take the notes on what's important to them. It's you listening. Neighborhood insights. There are, when you set up your clients in Command and you have their property address, it will send them once a month activities / traffic on what's happening in their neighborhood. And there's ways in Command where you can pull that information as well. It pulls it from our MLS, but it also can be helpful information for them to know what's happening in that neighborhood. So when you're in that buyer consultation with them and they want to be in Halsley, but there's only 3 houses for sale in Halsley right now. Well, Halsley is a big neighborhood. If there's only 3 houses for sale, then there's probably a lot of competition in Halsley right now. There's a lot of people looking. So you just want to set the expectation. If they've really focused in on a neighborhood, to know what days in market are, to know how much over list price things are selling. That's a big one. If things are selling over list, you need to know what percentage that is. Now, how buying a home works. This is a part of your buyer consultation. And like I said, if you go through that roadmap with them, the contract and the do's and don'ts, you're going to hit all of this. You're going to talk about what an appraisal looks like. You're going to talk about pre-qual versus pre-approval. You're going to talk about the documents the lender is going to require. All of that is a part of that roadmap, and I'll share that document with you. It's a very important piece, but I don't know if you want to spend, if you're trying to keep everything within an hour to an hour and a half, it might be a lot to go over all the details of the process. The roadmap will hit everything. All right, home loans made simple. Like I said, what I review on this part is just the do's and don'ts. Let the lender be the expert on that side. You just talk about what you don't want them doing during this process. And by process, we could talk 6 months, we could talk a year. I also share with them, you may have a conversation with the lender and they may say, now's not the time for you. Because if you do this, this, and this, in 6 months, your credit's going to raise this much and you're going to have a purchase power of this amount. And that might be a game changer for them. We might be talking about someone who qualifies for 175 to 250 within 6 months by paying some things off, by consolidating a little bit. Not like consolidating as like with a debt collector, but like listening to what the lender says. The lender can do a rapid rescore to run their credit if something was wrong on their credit report. So working with the lender is a key part to that, but it's also the money side that if it's your friend, if it's a neighbor, it's not part of a conversation you want to really know about. Some will be wide open and will tell you everything. Others will find it. I had a lady reach out to me and she is in a book club with this lady in her neighborhood who's a realtor. So they're like friends, like live 5 doors down from each other. And she said, I don't want to use her as a realtor because I don't want her knowing my personal information. And in my head, I'm thinking, but you guys are friends. And she knows this neighborhood, but also I was thinking, well, your house is also worth 1.4 million. So that's good that you called me. I'm glad that you did. But you just never know. People are weird about the money part. So keep it simple when you talk about the lending piece of it. Just the do's and don'ts, you can touch on that. Oh, what is very important though, is to talk about our affiliated business agreements. So who are the 2 businesses that are right here in our office that Keller Williams gets like a kickback from when we use them? Vesta and who? Atlantic Coast, right. So they need to be aware that we have relationships, and how you can describe it is we have a great relationship with a lender and a title company right here in our office. It's very convenient. Their pricing is very competitive. You are more than welcome to use whoever we want, but these are who we have business relationships with. There will be a form, a disclosure that you're going to sign, letting you know that those 2 businesses are in our office. If you want to use someone else, just let me know. I'm going to give you the information for Todd anyways, or you've already reached out to him to connect with him. And Vesta, what we love about Vesta is that they have an attorney on staff. It's a title company, but they have an attorney right here in the office. That if we have questions on anything, we can go to him. 9 times out of 10, unless their cousin's an attorney, just make sure it's someone who knows something about real estate, because that can really hold back a deal if they're using their cousin who's a criminal attorney to do their real estate closing. All right, when you're in your buyer consultation, if you are still trying to convince them that you're the expert, you may talk some numbers with them. And you might be thinking, well, I'm new to this. How in the world am I going to relay to them my numbers? Well, you could always use the numbers of our office because you're a part of this team. If you're on a team, you use the numbers of the team. Always relate what you've done in the past to what you're doing now. If your major was marketing and you just graduated from college, you're going to talk about how you use that to your advantage in this industry. I was a school teacher, so I was super try to be type A organized. And they say teachers and nurses make the best realtors, which is crazy. I don't know why nurses, but teachers are kind of anal. So I think they're good at processes. They may not make the best like lead agent, because not all teachers are very dominating, I would say. Just depends. And they know their numbers. They have to with school, with work and things like that. So just be the expert in whatever field you're in and relate it to what you're doing now. I will tell you a great place to start when you're creating this real value, real experience page about your profile is use ChatGPT. Put in there what you are passionate about. Put in there what you've done in the past, and then ask ChatGPT to create a profile for you or a unique value proposition for you. And it will be better than anything you could come up. Maybe it would be anything better than I could come up with on my end. Use that. That is the one place to use that to your advantage. To know your numbers, if you don't have numbers to know, you can use the office's numbers. This would be a great number to use would be that we are one of the largest brokerages in our Richmond MLS. I don't know if we are the largest, but Maria would be able to tell us that. Which means that we like to sell each other's listings. And that's how you would describe that to someone. So we have a great opportunity at each of our team meetings where agents get to get up and talk about their new listings. Some of them are off market, which means as we're sitting here and you're telling me what your needs are, I'm thinking of going to our portal where all the off market listings are to make sure that one of those may not be the perfect fit for you. And if so, we're going to have an opportunity to take a sneak peek at that listing prior to it going on the market. So that shows, that's awesome. And that's a part of your team. So that's something that you can show as your unique value proposition. Any ahas from that part? All right, I'm just going to keep rolling if you guys are good with that. All right. Conducting that buyer consultation, we've kind of gone through what's important to talk about, what's important to kind of just hand them the information on. This is a great, when I go into a buyer appointment, I think buyer appointments are a lot easier for me because I've done more of them. And so I don't have to prepare anymore. I know it. But every time you tweak your buyer appointment, make sure you know what you've pulled out or added and that you know the script on that. Because I was not prepared and we added a couple pages this past year and I'm sitting there going through it and then I'm like, oh wait, hold on, what is this? And that doesn't look good. So like know what you're showing them and then go in there with the mindset. I'm knowledgeable and I'm caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them and buy a home. Someone asked me once, I think it was Pointy, asked me, she was about to go into listing presentation. I was like, girl, you just pump yourself up. When you go in there, like put some music on the way there and you're driving to the neighborhood and just like pump yourself up. And she was like, okay, well, what do you listen to? And you can do this on the way to a buyer appointment too. And I was like, well, so I have 2 songs and they're very, very different. And she was like, okay, what are they? And I was like, well, one of them is Lose Yourself, Eminem, and the other one is Praise by Brandon Lake. And I was like, yeah, they're both one's a worship song and one is like, just get it done. But I was like, just do what works for you. But that you just got to have some sort of, get your mindset right when you go into these appointments. You are the expert. Don't go in there feeling like, why in the world would these people choose me for making the biggest investment of their life when I've only been in the business for 6 months? Don't even think like that. You are the expert. You have enough people in this space that can help you along the way. Your PC program there's no other brokerage that has something like that. So that's your team right there. You've welcomed the buyer. You've talked about your wish list. You're hearing them, but you know what your searches are going to be. Love letters. I will talk about this, but I may not practice this. So this is up to you. Does anybody know what a love letter is? Riley, do you know what a love letter is?
I think I was speaking to the agent on the other side of like kind of things that would make our offer stronger.
Okay.
And we were really careful with, the things that she said, my buyer said in this offer, in this love letter. It was actually with the offer.
Yep.
And it was, sure it didn't violate any of the fair housing. And
Yep.
it was just kind of saying what she loved about the house and
Yep.
how she was going to kind of bring it to life again.
Yep.
And, there was nothing personal in there. It was just the love that she had for the house and what she was going to create with it.
Yep.
So
as you represent buyers, I don't see the problem in doing the love letter. and they call it a liability letter, I feel like it's more on the seller side and the listing agent side. I also don't mind accepting love letters, but I also don't read them. So if I have the listing, I will send them the offer with the love letter and say, it's up to you on whether you want to read it or not. Remember, you're making a decision based on the numbers. And that's how I leave it. Because in the end, if it's a multiple offer situation, I've created a spreadsheet for my sellers to go over the terms of every offer. And in the bottom, it says what they're going to net. So if they're not focused on this, but they told me in the listing appointment, that bottom line was what's the most important. My job is just to reiterate, I know you read that love letter and they're going through IVF and they want this home to be their home so that they can have a baby and raise this baby. But this is what that final number looks like. So you have to decide whether you're focused on this or that. That's your job. Now, I didn't know about the IVF until after because they told me what the letter said. And I was like, oh my gosh, they did not tell you that. So on the love letters, a buyer falls in love with a property. It's a multiple offer situation. And like Riley said, her buyer talked about what she loved about the home. It could be a feature. It could be the koi pond in the back, the playground for the grandkids, the location to the park, any of those things that they connected with when the Ohio State gear because they went to Ohio State. Some sort of connection that this buyer had with that. I don't care if a buyer writes them or not. It does not matter to me if they write them or not. I will tell you, I have absolutely had buyers win offers with the love letters. So on the sell side, it's definitely more of a liability as you're receiving the offers. On the buy side, I just struggle with what you can get in trouble for when they submit it. So you decide whether it's something that you feel comfortable with. Like I said, on the list side, I never read them. I just pass them on and just say, you can read it if you want, you don't have to. If you have a conversation with your sellers and they say, nope, we do not want them, then you just make sure you put in the MLS or you let the agents know, hey, I got your love letter. We're just not accepting love letters at this time.
Excuse me, Chrissy.
Yes.
This is James Jones.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the pitfalls of that letter when you said you're concerned about what can be mentioned?
On the sell side, a seller could be accused of breaking fair housing laws because they picked a buyer because of a certain race, background. One of the fair housing laws that could be broken would be related to like familial status, any of those things that could be a violation that we've learned are protected classes.
I guess I was thinking more from the buyer side.
On the buyer side, I just don't see it. I do not see a problem with it at all.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
I thought
you're not.
maybe I misheard something. Okay, no problem.
Right, you're not, and I don't know, maybe Patrice and maybe Peggy, you can tell me this too. Do you guys talk about whether they should do it or not?
I mean, we've talked about how it's shifted where it's not as common, like, because of the liability of it, you know.
But on the buy side, what's the liability?
Well, I mean, I guess we talked about how, and this is what I learned when I started, about how if sometimes oversharing or overdoing might not work for the buyer.
Yep.
I mean, for the seller, they just may not want to hear that
Yep.
or not have that sway in that direction emotionally. So I think you have to kind of figure out what the seller is
wanting. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I think it's all about like using your psychology a little bit.
And that's why Riley was saying, talk to the listing agent. She might have heard in that conversation, this is the hard move for them. They love this house, but the husband's being transferred. Well, then now they're going to hear about a family that's going to move in and make it their own and continue everything that they started, all the love in that house, blah, blah, blah.
I will say though, when you're on the seller side, on the listing side, I know we're talking buyers,
Yep.
but when that letter does come in, sometimes that letter will get them over the hump with that offer if they're up against another offer.
Absolutely.
Based on, I'd rather see a family come here than some investor who's going to turn this, flip this house.
That's the angle that I was kind of thinking about, that it would enhance the competitive offer.
Absolutely, it does.
There's also another thing too, is like we just completely took out family. Because you're not even like, I don't think you're even supposed to know whether they're a single person or they have a spouse.
Just because their names are on the contract.
Yeah. We made sure not to even cross anything else. Because even if you let them know your kids, some people might not even like it.
Right, I know.
So they're like, oh, I don't want kids trashing the house.
Right, exactly. It could
So-
hurt them.
And you would think it's like, oh, it's great, but everyone's different.
Yep.
And I think following fair housing actually is beneficial, even though sometimes it seems like it would really help to just say, oh, the kids.
Yeah.
We want this. But at the end of the day, like if you follow those rules, it could pay off a little bit more, and then
Yeah.
you're kind of making it more of a.
You can just say we.
And
we're
a
gonna-
complimentary thing of
Right.
like noticing the special aspects
Yeah.
of their home.
I think that's really big. Complimenting them on what you love about the house. Why we're the perfect match. Yeah,
Oh, so making the letter more about the house that
Yes.
you're into
Yeah.
versus.
yeah,
Why
why
does
we're the
that-
perfect match, yeah. And again, it really is based on a conversation that you've had with the listing agent too. You'll have people that are touchy-feely, like in this one situation, we had 13 offers and the wife was like, I want to read every single letter. And the husband was like, what are the numbers? Show me the numbers. So they're very like, they're on different pages. And then that's really fun to talk about. And she was like, but wait, what did that buyer, what's their history again? I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. I'm going over the numbers. We're going over the numbers. Then you guys can sit and talk together and match the two up and decide which one's best. And in the end, the wife didn't want the highest offer. And the husband was like, oh, no, we're talking about like a $30,000 difference. And she's like, but this family's good. No. But that's not my job. That's his job.
Another thing too that I did in addition to that, because the husband and the wife, I knew that about the husband and the wife that were selling the house. When the husband was super numbers and logically oriented, and the wife was very emotional. So we actually came up with a pricing of why we offered less than, what the listing price was, with all her intent to fix things that were necessary.
Okay. It's like a spreadsheet.
And he actually, I had asked him, and he said, I would definitely break down the numbers for your husband because he's a numbers guy. And I was like, perfect. So I went.
The listing agent said that? Oh,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
And
Little
I
tip.
broke down everything. Unfortunately, we didn't get it because someone like went above asking, but I think it was a really strong offer and they appreciated.
Oh,
all
absolutely.
of
That's a
that.
good one for
I
sure.
think it also is helpful as a buyer agent to really do your homework on the history of the house, like
Mhm.
how long these people have lived there.
Yep,
Sometimes you can find out that they just bought that house 6 months before.
right.
So maybe they just renovated it and did it purely
No
to make
connections.
money.
Right.
So then it's not gonna mean anything. But
No.
if it's the original owners, they lived there 30 years, raised their family there,
Yep.
might be a whole different thing.
Y'all, I have seen everything from, I had a buyer make a donation to the nonprofit that my sellers ran as part of their offer. I had a buyer offer to buy pizza every Friday night for the family leading up to closing. I mean, you see it all.
Wow. Wow.
Every Friday night. So that like was in their mind sensitive to the fact that their family's about to make a move and they have pizza every Friday night. So I mean, there's just so many different things you can do. The love letter, just be very careful with fair housing and talk to the listing agent. First, whether they'll accept it or not. And two, just learn a little bit about the seller through conversation.
And I think before you write an offer, this has always been helpful to me. Call the listing agent and learn what their motivation
Yes.
is. What is the most important thing to them? Like if they need to be in that house
Yep,
a month after close, but they need the closing money or whatever,
Right.
then get your
Your-
buyer to do that. And
Yep.
then maybe make that your tactic on how to win. Like,
yep.
give
We
them
talked
free
about,
rent or
we
just-
talked about that earlier, guys, about the terms and when it comes to timeline, you're definitely gonna wanna know that timeline from that agent, because if it's a vacant house, we talked about this, of course, they're gonna wanna close sooner than later. But if it's a family that's gotta wait till the school year ends, a rent back for a month might be what puts you over the top to be the winning offer. So if you're talking to the realtor, put in perspective, you're calling the agent before you submit your offer, finding out what's important to that seller, but nobody else did, whose offer are they going to take the time to review because you already know what's important for this to the seller? Absolutely your offer. Absolutely. Anybody have any questions or ahas when it comes to love letters? Tara or Tanya or Nicole, y'all have anything that has happened with you regarding love letters? Did you say? Yeah.
Hey, sorry, it's Tara. First I want to say kudos to Riley. That was excellent, excellent, excellent. I like your whole philosophy where it pertains to love letters. And for me, sorry for me being out of breath, I'm on a track. I have made it a standard of practice on both sides, for buyers and sellers, that I do not really encourage my uh, clients to do love letters. If they want to, totally up to them. However, due to fair housing conflicts or potential violations, I chose to, in my business, as a best practice, that we don't do love letters. We don't offer love letters from the buy side. And as for listings, we don't I don't encourage my sellers to look at them because we don't want to be in violation of fair housing. So just a standard.
Got
Keep
it.
it simple. Yep.
Makes sense. Anybody else?
Christy, can you kind of explain what the importance of the love letter is again? I don't think I heard that part.
So a love letter is a letter to a seller letting them know why this buyer would be the best candidate for this house, why they are going to love this house. They're going to talk about when we went to the showing, we saw how much you take care of your garden in the back, and we absolutely love that. We're big gardeners. We noticed that there's 4 bedrooms and they are meticulously taken care of. We love how you've taken care of the house. We love that island is used as a place for a family to have a meal. We love that you've painted the colors that we would absolutely use and we don't have to change a thing. All of those things you're going to talk about. What makes you the perfect person to purchase that home? Now, what Riley was talking about is when you talk about that, you're not going to go into detail about your family or your situation. You're going to talk more about what you loved about the house. You can say we, you can say I, however you want. You're not going into detail about my kids like this or whatever. Just talk about that because like Riley said, these people may not even like kids. So that might hurt you in the end. So if you keep it more about the focus of the home and what you love, what features you loved about the home, even if, like I said, Ohio State, if you went down in the basement and there's Ohio State gear everywhere, you said, oh my gosh, we're an Ohio State alum. We absolutely love Ohio State. You know that that's something they'll connect to. Schools are a big one because everybody loves to have a connection to somebody who went to a school, the same school as them. There's lots of history there. I also Facebook stalk our sellers too. When I have a buyer, I want to know who these sellers are. So I'll look them up on Facebook and see if I can find any connection to them, whether it's a common friend, that's a big one. If you have common friends with a seller, or just something in connection with them that you can help your buyer with too. Hey, I think you guys both go to Burn. Say something about how much you love working out. You're going to use the basement for your gym, even though you go to Burn, that kind of thing. So, there's lots of ways to find out and make connections with a seller. But again, the listing agent is going to be your biggest resource. When, like Peggy said, when you call them, ask them what's important with that offer. That might give you some insight as to whether you do a love letter and how to gear it, how to like focus that letter. Does that help at all, Taylor?
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. The most important part, the buyer's agreements. The goal of your consultation is to get that buyer agreement signed. That's the goal. So we may not wait till the very end to do that while their eyes are like totally glazed over, but this is a very important piece to the conversation. Very important piece, getting that buyer's agreement signed. At this point, you have loved on them to talk about what their needs are. You've described to them how the process works. So now you're the expert. So they really have no reason not to sign with you. It's a legal document that formalizes your working relationship with your buyer, detailing the services you provide and the duration of the relationship. This agreement protects you from spending valuable time with a buyer who ultimately uses another agent to purchase a home. All right. Going over. Oh, is that the end? Really? Okay, hold up. Wow. That can't be right. Is that really the end? Oh, there's like another one. I was gonna say, that's really weird. No, maybe. Okay. I'm gonna show you guys. Oh, I don't know if it'll let me do this, but I'll try. I'm assuming you guys go through forms in PC and you guys know the buyer's rep. Okay, so I don't really need to show it to you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about what that conversation looks like when you're in front of them to go over the buyer's rep. As agents, you are under the understanding that when you get a buyer's rep signed, the commission that's listed on the buyer's rep is what you're asking the buyer to pay. Is that understood? Now, when you have this conversation with them, the two things you're going to talk about is, like they said, the time, how long we're going to be in relationship together, and what my expectations are of you. So when we're in relationship together, you're working exclusively with me. And my role is to provide you the expertise for the areas you want to be in, for the type of house you want to be in, for the loan that you're going to use because you're going to partner with one of our preferred lenders. And we're going to create a relationship that's going to be so valuable to you that you're going to have no other reason but to come to me for any questions. And again, there are no stupid questions. So as I tell you about the services that I'm going to provide, I'm going to also share with you that when we go to make an offer on a property, the commission that I am asking is going to be something we're going to ask a seller to pay. Depending on the offer situations, how many offers there are, we may have to be creative on what we ask and how much we ask for from a seller to pay my commission. The ultimate goal is to get the seller to pay the commission. But there is a chance that some or none of that amount may be covered. So let's talk about what that looks like. So you're going to go over with them. If a seller is not willing to pay commission, obviously they will know ahead of time. And it may mean you don't win an offer. It may mean it doesn't work for them. But they need to be aware of what that looks like based on their price point. So you have to decide as the buyer's agent what you're willing to accept. Now, I would say our goal is to put 3% in there every single time. And after that, it's negotiable. So when you go to make an offer on a property, of course, our goal is to put 3% in the field where it says, what are you asking for buyer broker compensation? So that's the goal, is to put that mirror exactly what you're asking your buyer to pay as far as the commission. But if you know the price point of what your buyer's looking at, they need to see that number. They need to be aware that this is the number that you would be responsible for if we cannot get the seller to pay. Now, they may look at you like a deer in headlights and go, well, I can't come up with that. And you're going to say, we have every intention of asking the seller to pay some or all of that amount. So let's not get concerned specifically with that number, get hyper-focused on it, but no, we need to be aware of that. There's different ways that you can get creative in your offer so that the seller is willing to pay it, meaning you might raise your price a little bit to build in that commission amount. So there's certain things you can do strategically so that that amount is paid for by the seller. The important part is to get that agreement signed, because you don't want these looky-loo buyers to be going through open houses, having this conversation with every other Joe Blow out there. Once you're signed, and I say 6 months to a year, you just never know how long it needs to be for. Because you have buyers that are seasoned and know that they have to move in 45 days. I still put 6 months on there. You just never know. So if you can do 6 months, do 6 months. If you can do a year, do a year. Your first time buyers, probably a year, because you don't know maybe at this point how long it's going to take for them to be ready. They could be in a lease right now, and their lease doesn't end until April. Now that's a great conversation that you all need to be aware of when you're in your buyer consultation. They say, well, we're going to get penalized if we break our lease early. And I dig a little deeper on that. What do you mean by penalized? Do you know what you're penalized for? Well, we have to pay 2 months rent. Okay. So whether you back out now of your lease or terminate it now, or you terminate it right before your lease ends, you're still going to have to pay the 2 months. So we know that you're going to have to pay 2 months if you break it early. Let's go ahead and start looking now, because if something comes up, you already know what you're going to have to pay. Some will say you don't have to pay 2 months, but you have to find someone to sublet the apartment. So they need to know what their landlord's rules are regarding terminating early. So make sure that that's part of your conversation, your buyer consultation, if you have renters. All right. Does anybody have any questions on this buyer signed agreement? We talked about this. You're going to go through the terms of the buyer's rep. The biggest part is who you are, that you represent them and them only. You'll talk about the commission. There's actually, there's a document out there that shows what the benefits are to having a realtor when it comes to buying. And I have it because I use it in one of my presentations. Let me see if it's in this one now. It would be really helpful for you to
Hey,
go.
Christy, I do have a question.
Yes.
So I'm still fairly new, but have you ever, personally for you, have you ever seen a seller contribute, if not most, if not all of the closing costs?
Yes.
Okay.
Closing costs and commission. We definitely see both. So, depending on the price point, you're going to ask for a certain amount in closing costs. So your closing costs for a buyer are about 3% of your loan amount. So let's just say they bought a house for $300,000 and they're putting 3% down. That means they're putting $9,000 down. So your loan amount is for $291,000. So their closing costs on that would be 3% of that $291,000. So when you go to fill in the blank on the closing cost assistance you're asking for, you got to know what the closing costs are going to be. You're not going to ask for $15,000 in closing costs when your closing costs aren't that amount. So you kind of need to know your numbers. And when you go over the process on the roadmap that I shared with you guys, we talk about that. In fact, let me see if I have it in here. I'm going to go through this because I think this is a really important conversation. I'll share this with you guys too. Let's see. All right, everybody can see my screen. Gosh, you guys can't see it. I wish it's in that playbook right there. I'm going to go through the roadmap. I'm going to look at the roadmap. You guys can see this roadmap, correct? Online, online, can you see my roadmap?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. Hold on, now I can't see it. There it is. Okay. So when you're going through this process with them, these are like bullet points of what you're going to talk about. And when you get to making your offer, you're going to talk about what you're going to be asking for. So in the making offer bullet point here, or of this roadmap number 5, is a good time to bring out your contract, a blank contract. And I literally fill it out while we're going through this roadmap so that they know all the terms of the contract, and it also guides us through this roadmap. Because you're going to get to a part in the contract about escrow. You're going to get in the part of the contract about inspections. You're going to get in part of the contract about financing. So this roadmap and my contract go hand in hand. And the reason I'm bringing it up to you this way is because there's a section on the contract where you fill in what you're asking the seller pay in closing costs and what you're asking the seller to pay in the buyer broker compensation. So you're going to need to know what that number should look like based on the price point of the home. And I actually write it on their roadmap. 3% of the loan amount equals your closing costs, which is separate from your down payment. So a buyer's coming up with a down payment and they're coming up with closing costs. So we automatically need to know you're going to need, in order to qualify for $300,000, you need to have this much saved up. Now there's a new loan product out. I just recently heard about this. It's a conventional loan with 1% down. Typically it's 3 to 3.5% for first time buyers. You can always put more. Conventional buyers can go 5, 10, 20% down. But 3 to 3.5% is typical. I think this new 1% conventional is going to be something people are looking at as well, because then it's just less money. As we enter into spring season, there will be less opportunities to ask sellers for closing cost assistance. I will tell you that. You could ask for some. You don't have to ask for all of it. I would say when you go to make an offer, you know the number is 10, or that's going to be what your closing costs are. Maybe ask for 8. Start there. And if they agree to 5, then at least you have half of them covered. That's just less money that your buyer has to bring to the table. So we're going through this roadmap. You have the contract in your hand at the same time. This will guide you through the steps on how to talk about the contingencies, how to talk about closing, timelines, all of those things. The other thing I actually write on the roadmap is the money that the buyer is going to come out of pocket with prior to closing. So they need to know, one, they're going to have to pay for their home inspection, and that ranges anywhere between $400 and $550, depending on how big the house is. 2, they're going to have to pay for an appraisal out of pocket, and that can be anywhere between $400 and $600, and then their earnest money deposit. When you explain their earnest money, make them understand that this is money, that this is the money that you've saved to purchase your home. We're putting this with the title company to show our good faith that we're willing to make this purchase. Now, if we cannot work through any of the 3 contingencies, maybe 4 built into the contract, there's an opportunity for you to get that earnest money back. If we follow through with this purchase, that earnest money goes toward that final amount that you're going to bring to closing. That's exactly how to explain it. But make sure they know the money that they're going to need up front out of pocket. Their earnest money, inspection, and appraisal. Correct. So when the earnest money is submitted to the title company, let's say it's $2,000, and in the end, we're going to make this purchase. We've gotten through every contingencies. When they're told by the lender what to bring to the title company, it's going to be minus $2,000 because that money is already sitting there. You're welcome. Any questions about that? This is a really key piece to this, having that contract in hand to go through this roadmap and then getting that buyer agreement signed. These are the 3 really big parts to this buyer, winning the buyer consultation. You have shared with them this roadmap and the contract that's going to lead you straight into your conversation about the buyer's rep. Yes.
So because now they have taken out everything, all the language out of everything, basically, and says negotiate in the contract. Because I've noticed I haven't gotten calls from buyers about asking what the commission is. So I haven't done it. It kind of puts you in a vulnerable spot though, because you don't know what you're going to get. And then I try to tell my buyer, this is negotiable in the contract. We'll ask for my full amount, but we don't know what's going to happen. Would you say because you, you do this way more than I do. Would you say that it's still practice to ask the
Yes.
agent ahead of time?
Yes. So that's a great point. So things have changed a lot. And so some of you may not even know what it used to be like. So I really didn't focus a lot on what it used to be like. But here's how you can set your buyer up to have some expectations in place about commission. As a listing agent, I've had a conversation with my seller to say, listen, it's not in writing anymore. We don't have it in writing on this listing agreement what you're willing to pay a buyer broker. But understand, now when buyer's agents submit offers, it's now part of the contract. So it is now a negotiable term. It was always a negotiable term, but the seller was offering it and it was in the MLS and you used to see it. Now it's just something they have to submit. So I tell my sellers, just know that they're going to come with an ask for the commission, and it can range anywhere from, and I say 1.5% to 3%. Just know that. And most of them are like, okay. If you're in a multiple offer situation, you may or may not see that number fluctuate. I've seen it on both sides. Who was it? I just lost an offer in Northside, and there was 11 offers, and not one of them had to reduce their commission. So agents are really trying to stand firm and asking for either 2.5% or 3%. It's really what the hope is in a buyer's agent scenario, and letting your sellers know, just understand this is that. Now, I work in Williamsburg and it's a totally different market. Very different market. In fact, our contracts don't have the space for the seller, that buyer's agent, to put that in there. It's still the broker fee agreement, broker compensation agreement that they use, where you put it in there. So there are times where agents will call and say, hey, is your seller offering a commission? What is it? I don't answer that anymore. I just say, yes, they are willing and they understand that offers will be submitted with a request for a commission. I will tell you this, in Williamsburg, there will definitely be agents that will not show your property unless you're offering at least 2.5% or 3%. There's a brokerage in Williamsburg that will not let their agents accept less than 2.5%. So it's different market there. So I have to be really careful on how I word it, because my seller knows they're going to have to pay it, or that it's a very strong possibility. But again, when we're in a multiple offer situation, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen this spring. Right now, I know people are still getting paid. I don't know what's going to happen. A few years ago, we had such an intense market that people were waiving their commissions and buyers were having to pay it. I just don't know that where these buyers are going to have to be that vulnerable again to have to pay it all.
And I also think that it's important for new agents to know that if you don't get that full amount, something's better than nothing. Like,
right.
Really look at that threshold. I try to tell my buyers, I'm asking for 3%.
Yep.
I'm going to get that from the seller if possible, but my lowest threshold is 2%.
Yep, that's a good
I make that clear, but not everybody does that.
Right.
And I respect that.
I think it's very important. Very
Tanya's
important.
online. Tanya and I have had this conversation. She's on there.
Was somebody going to say something?
Christy, James again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the roadmap, I see number 6 says deposit escrow and loan application. Does that change, and does that language change? Because number 2 is the pre-approval process, which involves the loan application, I would assume.
For the most part, some can do a pre-approval without all of that. Nowadays, you pretty much have to. So in our contract, it states that a buyer has to submit a loan application within 7
days, right?
So when you have that conversation with your buyer, you're going to say, I'm assuming at this point, you all have already submitted your loan application. But
Understood.
just know that this is a part of our contract and this is a deadline that we have to abide by. You may not know, so it's worth the conversation having with them.
Absolutely. When they say deposit escrow, what are they talking about in particular?
The earnest money that
Okay.
the title company.
Okay, gotcha. Say no
Yeah.
more. Just making sure.
Everybody uses these terms different, and I probably should have put it in earnest money. When we got this, we created this from an agent in Texas, And the agent in Texas, they use the word escrow more than they do.
Understood. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was on the same page.
Great
Thanks.
question. Great question.
And they call it EMD too.
EMD, yep, you'll hear EMD for earnest money deposit. All right, any other questions about this roadmap? I think this is super helpful. The other part that I was going to show you guys in this is really important for you to go over. I honestly didn't even tell you this because I forgot about this. We just recently added, remember I was telling you like there's a page, make sure you know what you're doing. This is a page we recently added as they've changed the structure of how commissions are paid or how it's asked for, let's put it that way. I can share this document with you. It's called Unlocking Your Real Estate Adventure, and then just outlining to a buyer everything that you're going to help them with. You may not go over all of this, or you may, but it's important for them to see how you're a part of this, what's in part, so that they see the value in you. This is also not on command, but I will share this with you. The next page is buyer's agent compensation. How are buyer's agent compensated? And then I put in here how that looks. This is also not in command. And if you guys want, I'll share yes, I have a Canva link that you can like edit and use this to make it your own with your colors and things like that. So this is an important piece too to talk about now that we're gearing how contracts are just worded a little bit different. As I put this at the end on purpose so that I can flow right into the buyer's agent agreement conversation. So we're wrapping up our conversation, our playbook conversation, and then we're talking about the buyer's agent here, compensation. It will then lead me right into getting that agreement signed. Any questions on that? Okay, you are so welcome. So here's the deal. I have a Google Drive of Win the Buyer, and if you can, what were we supposed to do for sign in? Was I supposed to write down everybody's name that's online?
Yeah, I can help you.
Okay. We'll write down everybody's name that's online and I'll get your email addresses. Does everybody want a link to that Google Drive folder with some of this information?
I do.
Okay. I will,
I would love to.
okay. If you don't say anything, I'm assuming that means yes. So we're going to write down, I hope we didn't lose anybody. I think we probably did lose some people online, but you guys stay till the end so you get the information. Now, I'm pretty sure I should be in there as an instructor now. I'm pretty sure I should be. If you can do a review or a survey, that would be amazing. If you go to kweval.com, I'm pretty sure I should be in there.
Hey, Taylor, what's your last name?
Well, it is Christina.
It's McMichael, so it's just M as in Mary, C as in cat, and then Michael, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then go
You're
ahead.
welcome.
You can still wait. If instructor's not in the drop down, type in their name, full name. So if it's not in the drop down, which I'm surprised it's not, go ahead and put my full name. It's Christina, Christina, Bacon, Bacon.
I forgot to do that. I've forgotten everything.
Well, this is good. If I ever want to be a KW instructor, I have to have a certain amount of evals.
Right. I know I need to do it too because I don't know I just haven't done any of those. Like,
I
okay.
didn't realize I've never done this. That's great.
I know. Who else? Is that it? I know we had other people online. Was Tanya on here?
Tanya
most of the
Legal was on
time?
there, yes.
Yeah. Oh, Lyndon.
And then I will put in together that Google Drive of Win the Buyer with our consultation playbook, with the contents of the binder, with those documents on the need analysis and the consultation itself, like getting their what their wants and needs are. The roadmap, the buyer agent compensation page, that's new. If you guys can think of anything else, let me know. And I'll add that to there. I think that's about it.
Are you saying this?
You also showed us the financial paper. I don't know if you mentioned it.
The do's and don'ts. Oh, buyer financial questionnaire. Yes, I'll put that in there. Yep. I didn't go over that one that much because I looked at that again and I'm like, gosh, these are a lot of questions that a lender should be asking, not me. And the actual, I'll put it in there though, but the actual consultation questionnaire, like the regular one, touches a little bit on like price points. Have they talked to a lender? And really, that's really the extent of the financing piece that you need to know. The lender will then follow up with you to tell you whether pause or yes, they have money to pay their own closing costs. Yes, they have money to do their down payment. They're going to need to do a grant program. There's so many different first-time buyer programs out there, first responder programs. I did hear though that on the first responder teacher programs, you have to have been employed for 5 years, which I did not know that. And no, this is the first responder one. The FHLB one is the 12.5, right? Oh, no. But what's that one? Is that? No, that's the one. Yeah, that is the one. I'm pretty sure it's 5 years you have to be employed, which stinks because it's the teacher who's been a teacher for 2 years that wants to buy the house, you know? It always is that case. But I need to confirm that. Todd is the one who just told us about these programs a few weeks ago in a team meeting. So I highly recommend being the expert and learning about, he has, there's a spreadsheet on the portal that you can download as a graphic and you could share it to your social media, but he also passed out 3 different flyers about it too. So it might be worth, like in my buyer binder, I put things in the pocket. And it's really good to put like that information in there. I put information about the home warranty companies. The home inspectors can go in the pockets. A seasonal checklist. This came from like First American on getting your home ready. A home maintenance guide. This is all free. By the way, y'all can get these. If you go to First Am Home Warranty, just Google First Am Home Warranty and as a realtor, create a login. You can order and they will mail to you 25 at a time of each of these. I have spring, summer, winter, fall of each of these that go in here. Nice. And it's like awesome information. This seasonal checklist, these guides, these home maintenance guides, you can get them for free. And they market it with your information on here too. So they put like your picture and everything on it. So like this is so old, but it has all of our information on here. So you upload your photo, your logo, all of that, and they'll just mail it to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what is that company called?
This is First American Home Warranty. Okay. And you just set up a realtor profile with them. I don't even use them for home warranties. We used them in Texas a lot because I knew the rep really well, but I don't even know who it is here for First American.
Who do you use?
Okay. Choza, is that how you say it? I like Tina a lot. She's really good. So what I love about this is that you can use your own contractor. So you can use your HVAC guy, know that they're doing like not band-aiding something. She comes here. Her daughter Maddie was just here a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
So they're good.
The other one, Cinch.
Cinch is good. We've changed reps so many times. I don't know who it is for them anymore.
The man who used to come to all of
Oh
them.
gosh.
He's
Yeah.
with
America's First Home Warranty.
Yeah,
he's not
been
with
here a
them.
while.
I don't think he's with them. Brett.
Yeah.
He was not a good fit.
like this. Then I realized
Not a
he
good
wasn't.
fit. All right. So I'll share all that information with you guys. Peggy will get me all's email addresses is that it right there?
I don't have their email address.
Okay, that's okay. I'll take a picture of it and I'll get Mal to send me the email addresses of those people. And then if there's anything y'all need, just let me know. I'll share that link with you. Are we good? Any other questions with anything?
That's great, Christy. Thank you.
Good. Okay. All right, you guys. If nobody has any more questions, if you can do an eval, that'd be awesome. If I ever decide I want to teach with Keller Williams, university to have these. So
Thank you, Christy. Enjoyed the class. This is James.
Thank
you're
you,
welcome,
Christy.
James. You're so welcome, y'all. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Too.
You.
All right. Bye.
Thanks,
You do the
Christy.
same.
So welcome.